there, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I hope that you're all doing well, and welcome to another informative session in our printTHINK webinar series. I'd like to introduce you to Doug Bartlett, who has been facilitating our webinar series and leading us through some great informative sessions over the past year, and Ryan Perrott, who's with Zycon, who is going to spend the afternoon next 45 minutes with you. So good luck, enjoy, and take it away, Doug.
Okay, thank you, Lene. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to those who are new, and welcome back to whoever else has been joining us throughout the series here. This is now the second session in our automation innovation theme, and today we're going to have a session from Zycon, Ryan Perrott. He's going to show us a little bit about a very innovative product they have called Smart Label Solution. So we'll want you to answer or ask questions on this panel on the side. Would love to get some questions from everyone. Also, when he gets to the there's a section here where he'll be doing a demo. There is a zoom button that you can use to zoom in on it. If you can't see, it's pretty small. There's a lot of data there. So please use that button to zoom in, and then we'll circle back with some questions at the end of the session. So with that, go ahead, Ryan.
Great. Well, thank you for that, and thank you for having me. Again, my name is Ryan Perrott. I'm with Zycon here in their Chicago Innovation Center, and we're located actually in Itasca, right near O'Hare Airport. And just a brief little introduction, if you're not familiar with Zycon, we are a designer and manufacturer of digital printing presses. So we primarily have been in the toner-based market with our duplex and simplex engines for a long while now. We also entered the UV inkjet market recently. And we are the digital division of Flint Group. So we are associated with Flint Group as well. Today I want to talk about what we're calling our smart label solution, and it's apropos that here in the States, if you didn't know, today is National Coffee Day, I guess, and so what we did to roll this out at Label Expo in Europe last year was we were using coffee as our example for this smart label solution. And what this really is we're calling it a way of bringing packaging online. Yeah, 1 second, sorry, my getting the interface figured out here, sorry about that. So we're bringing packaging online. So this is basically a form of cloud-based track and trace, but with a smart back end that allows for a lot more data to be collected from all different sources along the way. So not only are we presenting it as a solution for end users to be able to gain more data on the products that they're buying, but we're also going to be able to use it to give resellers and suppliers more information on the products that they're selling and where they're going. It's something we integrate with our digital front end, or our RIP, which is called X800. X800 is a RIP that powers all of our Zycon digital print engines, and it has a very powerful what we call metadata module in a way to get variable data onto any aspect of your jobs that you would like to print. The Smart Label solution is something that we've worked with both UPM Raflatac, so that was through their RAFMore program, and the back end of the Smart Label solution comes from Magic Ad. So why do we want to bring packaging online? There's a lot of reasons that this benefits both the consumer and the manufacturer here, and it's something that we're trying to see more and more. We've all seen maybe some fun ones where it's virtual packaging, use your phone to get sort of a virtual look at packaging, but being able to provide the consumer with more information on what they're buying really makes your product, seem a little bit more valuable. It also allows the customer, the consumer, the end user to really, once it's in their hand and they're scanning it, they may be more likely after getting a little bit of information on it to then purchase that product. But as I mentioned, it's not just something for consumers to maybe get more information on something they're looking at in the store, but also when they go and scan it in, we're going to be able to collect information on who scanned that in, where were they, and some other attributes. So that really helps with branding and marketing to find out if campaigns are doing well and to see where certain aspects of the product are doing better, maybe in better markets than others. Speaking of National Coffee Day, I had to be in early, and so I needed my Starbucks. But I saw this actually pop up on my Starbucks app this morning, in that they're doing just this. They're kind of following what we're looking at the example today, which is tracing your coffee's journey. So we did a similar example, like I said, back in Label Expo, but again, using their back end and everything, they're able to then show you information on where that coffee that you're purchasing in the store in the bag to go home and make is coming from. As I mentioned, this is basically a type of track and trace. So there's multiple steps, and any of these steps we can gather and get more data into the back end, which allows us to present the customer with more information, or be able to use that for marketing or supply chain and logistics. So it starts with the supplier, who, in our example for the coffee here, that's, let's say, going to be the bean farmer. They're going to, have their beans that they grow, cultivate, and dry out and send to a packager. But the supplier is going to initiate this process by saying, hey, here's where these beans were growing. Maybe here's how we prepared them. Here's some notes on what these particular, coffee beans might taste like and how to brew them. Now, the producer, which is going to have the labels printed for this product, they're going to have these unique labels or barcodes on each package that we can pre-print ahead of time and then link those pre-printed batches of these unique barcodes that will take you to a website to show you the information on this with the product coming from the supplier. So this doesn't necessarily have to be on demand. We can already have these labels ready to go. We just have to link those barcodes with whatever batch of product is coming in. From this point forward, any type of information that we deem valuable to this process can be added on. So it's going to go to a distributor, which is going to find transportation for this product. And maybe during that transport, we want to be able to say, hey, this is how long it was being transported for, or what were the conditions during transport? Were they good for this product? And that can be added again into the back end of this track and trace, this smart label. It'll then get to the retailer, who's going to provide it to the store, and they can work together. So the retailer can use all the information at this point to let the store know when inventory is coming to them, and they can also use information from the store to figure out when they're going to need to reorder, or use some sort of machine-based learning to do forecasting as well. Finally, it's going to get into the hands of the customer. So it's going to now be on the store shelf, and the customer, it's now presented as a way for the customer to see information about this and make it maybe a nice story. Where did those coffee beans come from? How are they produced? Are they sustainable? So when the customer actually scans in their product, they can get all the relevant information to them. They're not obviously going to need all of this other information on how it got to them. So our smart label solution, as I mentioned, was done with our partners from UPM, Raffletech, and MagicAd. And being that it is cloud-based, that gives us a lot of flexibility as to what we can do with it. As you saw in the last slides, data can be added from anywhere, and it's just going to be put into that batch of products so that we know how it's been handled along the way. As I mentioned, every package, every label will be made unique, and we can do that however is the best means for the product that we're looking at. So for most consumers, a QR code that they can scan with their smartphone, and nowadays smartphones, you can scan QR codes without even having to have additional software. I've seen some people do it, with their camera app, and it'll be like, recognize it's a QR code. So that can then open a web page, and that web page can show them the information. But it could be any other types of means. It could be a barcode, a text, a number. Again, it could be a unique image. It's just whatever works best for that product in that market. Once they scan that barcode, they're going to get extra information, again, make that product seem more valuable to them. And we're also going to then take that scan data, when they scan that, where they scanned it, and we're going to put that back into the cloud database so that we now have more marketing information. So it really helps us with market intelligence, and it helps the brand owners figure out how their campaign is doing. On top of that, there are some other nice features that the Smart Label solution allows us to have. Obviously, we really want it to be engaging with customers. We want it to be able to tell a story that's going to make the customer take that product off the shelf and scan that unique code that we printed on it. But we can do additional things. Because we have these unique codes for each product, we can also use that to secure our supply chain and help fight counterfeiting. Again, if they scan that code and maybe it's an invalid code, or we know that that's a bad product or has been tampered with, that could be put in the backend database. So if that does get scanned, it's like, oh, maybe we should do something about that and find out where those scans are coming from and take care of that situation. It's a great way to also improve brand image, make products seem more authentic, and really make the brand image seem more homegrown, as it were, by providing these stories or information to the consumer on their product. And as I've mentioned, we get all this data, we combine it together, and we use that for more marketing in the site and campaign improvement. So this is an example, sort of a mock-up of what it might look like for a customer that's scanning in one of our smart labels specifically. So here we have a smart label on our package of coffee. These were all printed uniquely, again, using, for Label Expo, obviously we're using Zycon technology for this. So when they scan that, that QR code is going to link back to a website. We don't need to necessarily have a special app for this, although we could if that was deemed necessary. But obviously, trying to make this as accessible as we can with just a web page and a QR code is going to probably help us with the amount of uptake from the consumer and scanning. So for this example, again, we get a nice picture, something that represents the brand, so that they know, okay, I did scan in this product using that smart label. Then we can, as I've mentioned, start to get sort of a story from this product. Where did this product come from? Additionally, what's some information on this product? Are we getting, what farm did it come from? How is it going to be? How should I brew it? And maybe a little background on where it came from. So we put a nice, photo in there. Here's the farmer, and maybe, here's how they dried them and took care of those beans. So again, really making it seem like a high and valuable product by presenting this information to the customer. And like I mentioned, once they have this in their hand, they're scanning it, they're reading through it, it's likely that this information can really sway them to then purchase that product. On the back end of things, though, as I've been mentioning, we're going to be collecting data on customers that have scanned this smart label in. So again, each barcode on that packaging is unique. So we know how many times that one barcode's been scanned. If we figure out where the batches are, we can tell how many went to a store and where those stores are. But we're able to also figure out from the phone and location data where those were scanned. We can also start to put together graphs and information on a whole set of products. So where did those scans happen, what months were more popular, and even it's possible to get age and gender data. So who's scanning this, what's the age groups that most interested in this product. Again, all of this information going back into the cloud database to help us with marketing and the supply chain down the line. As I mentioned, this we found was a really nice and easy way to integrate variable data with our Zycon family of digital printing presses. So all of our presses run this X800 front end, which is our RIP, and it's a very open architecture platform. So it doesn't matter how we get the data in there. There's a couple of different ways that we can actually get the data from our cloud to create those labels and then put that in our metadata module in X800 to then have those ready at time of print. X800 from Zycon, it's a RIP that's really focused on industry standards. So it's not, it's not really closed off. We're able to really take in information from wherever we can get it and integrate that into print projects, either beforehand, before ripping, or at time of print. And for example, with this metadata module, we can, at time of print, pull all that data together and put that right on the packaging as we're going to press. There's a number of ways to actually get the data from the cloud to our engine for printing. And this again could be, it doesn't have to just be X800, it could be any engine that has a strong variable data platform. But for us, we're able to either pull it through a database such as SQL. We can pull it in through an API. We have customers that have written custom software to integrate their workflow or their front-end systems into X800. Or it could be something as simple as you go to the cloud, you download your database file, and then when you go to rip that file in X800, it's just going to read that standard database file and populate those barcodes as necessary. As I mentioned, I am here at the demo room or innovation center in Chicago. So I wouldn't feel quite at home if I didn't do just a little brief demo of how X800 works. So I don't want to go too deep into this. I just want to show a quick demo on how we would get those barcodes on there, how we would pull from a database and get those smart labels put onto our packaging. So I'm just going to switch over here to my press, and so you don't have to stare just at the back of my head while I work over here, I'll move the camera around a little bit. So right now I just have a preview of the label itself up, and you can see down here, this is that variable data barcode that we've been putting on our packaging. And I'm pulling these, as I mentioned, just for an ease of a simple presentation, and you can see they're changing as I go by there. I'm pulling these from a simple CSV Excel or spreadsheet database. In X800, as I mentioned, we have this very powerful metadata module, and this is what it looks like right here. Hopefully you can see all the options here again, as they mentioned earlier. If you can't quite read that, there should be a zoom option in the webinar to be able to zoom into that. But what this metadata module allows us to do is specifies what type of metadata, what type of additional data do we want to put in our print project. So for this one, I did select a barcode. There's a number of different types of barcodes that we can do with X800. But as I mentioned, for this project, I'm sticking with a QR code. It's going to be, again, the most easily interactive from a consumer standpoint, that they can just scan that and go to a web page to be able to see that. In X800, I do tell it where I want to put that barcode. So there's a position information here. So I'm putting it 10 millimeters from the left basically, and 3 millimeters up. And I'm also scaling that barcode, that QR code up a little bit. Now, as I mentioned, down here at the bottom, that's where we can find our actual smart label database. So as you saw with the preview that I had shown you earlier, this one is already laid out. So I've put that information in there. And the great thing about having an open platform like X800 is all of this information can be stored in the job ticket. So you don't have to set this up every time. You only really have to do it once for that job. And then depending on where you get your data from, change out the database of that smart label information. So if I wanted to come in here and choose a different database, I already have a folder set up for that. Right here. And I have additional smart label database, so I can swap that out, save that information into X800, and then all I have to do is re-rip that individual metadata. I don't have to re-rip the entire job or the layouts or anything like that. It will update at time of print. So again, this is why we found that the smart label solution and working with our vendors was a really nice fit for X800, for Zycon, being that we're a full digital, full rotary print engine. We have no frame sizes. We're web fed, so we don't have to worry about sheet sizes. We're constantly streaming data to the print engine. So being able to do variable data is very second nature to us. So it's we're always streaming data. We're always writing new data based on the electrophotographic process. And X800 allows for really nice, smooth integration for all types of variable data. But when you add in our vendors that we worked with UPM, Rathmore, and the MagicAD database, we really get a powerful solution that is easy to integrate into almost any project. So that's really what I wanted to cover with the Smart Label solution. And as we mentioned, I would be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Great information there. I do have a few questions for you. Hopefully you can hear me okay. What types of packaging or labels could be used with this process?
Yeah, so I guess that's really up to anyone's imagination, right? So you could really, anything that you're doing digital, you could put a smart label on. So again, we can use any sort of code or text or number that we would like. We've been primarily doing these with self-adhesive labels, but we also do a lot of folding carton, heat transfer, IML with our digital engine. So that would also be a very easy fit for us to put smart label barcodes onto as well.
Okay. And how does the DFE X800 interface with other workflows?
So as I mentioned, and we saw in one of my earlier slides, with all the open standards that we have in here, so we are using PPML in our DFE. So that's an XML-based standard, and we do integrate with a lot of third-party applications that want to get data to or from our RIP. So again, having a very open standard and open front end, open architecture front end means that we're able to easily integrate with all different software packages.
Okay, and how does Zycon work with labels of different sizes?
So that's not really an issue for us. Again, being that we're a web fed, all of our engines are web fed, so we don't have to worry about any like frame sizes when we're printing. So we can we can use the web to best fit on any job and make the most use of that web. And we also have some optimizers and some other neat tricks that we can do to make use of any blank web that you might have.
Okay. What solution is in place to account for random in-store scans without a purchase?
So I'm not sure if there are any, because again, you could be scanning that barcode more or less at any time. So you're still collecting information on where that's being scanned at. So if you do know where the locations that the product is being sold to, and you are being able to get good GPS data from those scans, you could probably geolocate out um, where those are being scanned in store versus where they're not being scanned in store. But I don't know that there would be a way to necessarily tell if somebody scans it and doesn't take the item. That would probably have to go a little bit deeper into the cloud database. As the store updates their inventory, you could put that information back into the cloud database to figure out what number of scans is leading to a sale, and use those percentages to help kind of calculate scans versus sales.
So when it gets scanned by anybody, whether it's in store or somebody that actually purchased it, is it, and let's say it gets scanned again,
Mm-hmm.
how are you differentiating, that maybe a different person scanned it? Is there a way to do that, or is it just from the
Well,
location?
no, you can differentiate different scans, because generally there's a number of ways to tell if a different device has scanned your barcode. So there's a lot of basically header or metadata information when you talk to a web server. So you can tell, yeah, is it somebody else that has scanned it, or is it the same person that's been scanning the same product? So in one of my slides, when we were looking at the backend data, there is sort of a unique code assigned to each individual scan. So if
Okay.
that same person is scanning product, or if somebody else has been scanning that same product.
Okay. And then how is this secure from counterfeiting attempts, or is it?
Um, it would be secure, because you do have to have those individual, so because each label is different and is going to have its own um, unique identifier built into the QR code, you can use that to basically, if you do, so you're going to generate those barcodes, so you know what your range of good barcodes is, or good QR codes in that series. So those will be in the cloud database. Now, if somebody's trying to make up numbers, to fake a barcode, those will not work, because those are not in the cloud database. Now, if somebody tries to say, take your one barcode and copy it, that could be detected, because now we're getting this high number of scans from one barcode in different locations, which is going to start to set off an alarm and say, okay, maybe somebody has taken that code, reproduced it, and then we can, in the back end say, stop, showing this as a valid code, or show a warning or something like that.
Okay, and how does if you didn't use a barcode and you used an image, how would that change the dynamics of security or counterfeiting? Because and I guess you mentioned you can use an image, right? It doesn't have to be
Mm-hmm.
a code, right?
Yeah, and so there's going to be imaging gets a little bit more complicated, because typically when you're using imagery to put codes into, now you have to generally have a special application to read that. So while it is a possibility, and you're going to get the same sort of information that you would from a QR code, you're going to have that unique identifier. It's a little bit, again, based on the product you're selling, maybe that's something you can push your customers towards a special application for reading that image. But that's why we generally like to stick with the QR code, because that's, basically readable by every smart device out there.
Okay. Is there extra finishing required for the smart label system?
No, so it's just a matter of getting that variable data barcode onto your packaging. So during the time of print, when we're doing that digitally, that's the best time to do it. But finishing itself will be just the same as you would normally finish your product.
Okay. And what other jobs can you run on Zycon presses?
So as I mentioned before, we sell both in the duplex and the simplex market. So our simplex press is what we call for graphic art. So that's going to be anything that requires, or I'm sorry, did I say duplex? Our duplex press. So that's going to be anything that requires printing on both sides. So mailers, booklets, books, magazines, those types of things. Our simplex engine, which is the one behind me here, our big market is the self-adhesive or the labeling market, but because of the dry toner technology, we're also able to do heat transfer. So we also have a number of manufacturers that are doing pails with these and transferring those onto buckets. And we also can do folding carton, wallpaper. So there's a pretty large market for what these engines can actually do.
Okay, great. That's the end of the questions that I can see here. My understanding is that Zycon is going to be conducting virtual demos and kind of customize what people need on these things, and that can be requested at zycon.com. Is that correct?
That's correct. So we have been doing virtual demos for a number of months now, and yeah, we would love to be able to show anyone this technology or any other technology safely through whatever the platform is at the time. So currently Zoom is where we're hosting all our demos.
Great, great. Okay, well, thank you, Ryan. I think that was great. A lot of good information there, really unique product and really interesting. So thank you everyone for joining. Please join us again in 2 weeks. We're gonna have a continuation of the theme here, automation innovation. Next session will be a joint session between Neil Peter and Heidelberg. So look forward to that, and we'll see everyone in a couple of weeks. Thanks again.